Thank
Um,
you.
so I'm gonna just start. Obviously,
Please.
so welcome back to the Trujillo YouTube channel, and I'm here with my dear friend, and I can call you that. It sounds kind of weird because we probably like actually been in the same room together maybe 3 times.
I know. I
But
know.
Keith Wallace is here. Kindred spirit for sure, like
Thank you for
no
having me.
question. And so I'm so glad you reached back out to me. And Keith reached out. So Keith and I got to know each other because he's a playwright also. And I got to see your show here in LA. And you helped out with my show when we were in New York. And Keith reached out the other day and was like, you know what? I'm starting to look into doing screenwriting. Not starting at this point, you are. And so
Sort of
I was like,
formalizing it, being more deliberate about,
be more
engaging.
deliberate. That's
Yeah.
the right way to put it. Yeah. So I was like, let's talk about it so that the Trujillo family can hear it and get inspired and learn this journey. So that's why you're here.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here.
I'm gonna ask you to go all like my favorite thing to know is what were the earliest sparks for you around creativity, around theater, around acting, perform any of that? What like do you remember those early sparks?
I absolutely remember the moment I knew that I was going to commit my life to like trying to, it was about a feeling. The first time I went to the theater, I experienced like a feeling that I couldn't describe. And in
Mm.
that moment, I was like, okay, I want to spend the rest of my life trying to create that feeling for other people. And I remember I had to be like maybe like 7 or 8 years old. My mom, she wins things. Like she always is applying to sweepstakes or contests or whatever. And she's always constantly winning things. So,
Nice.
the radio stations have these contests where you can call in and win tickets to this concert or whatever. So she called in and she had won tickets to some show. I don't remember the show. It was one of those traveling theater productions. We call them urban theater
Uh-huh.
productions.
Uh-huh.
And this is in Philly where I was like born and raised, and the theater was downtown Philly. The Merriam Theatre was like the architecture. You know those old theaters that have that really grandiose architecture, sort of like cathedral-esque feeling.
Yeah.
But they present a lot of shows that come through the city.
Mm-hmm.
So this show was at the Merriam Theatre. My mom takes me, and it's like a Saturday afternoon, and people are dressed like they're really dressed in a way that like you knew they were going to an event.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm like, trying to take a lay of the land, and we go and sit in the theater, and the curtain was drawn. And so, people are sitting and the lights are up, so people are chatting, da da da. And then at a certain point, the house light starts to go down, and people just automatically know on cue to just like quiet down.
Mm.
So I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. I asked my mom, like, hey, what's going on? She's like, shh, be quiet, no. And then like this is like when they had live bands that would play like
Oh
behind
yeah.
the scenes, because
Yes.
there's a lot of singing and those
Yes.
kind of shows or whatever. So you hear like a drum kick and the band just starts going. And then like the lights will start going and the curtain opens, and it's like this like box set, like living room, whatever,
Yes.
set. And I'm just like looking like, what is going on here? And I'm excited, and I'm like my energy is going, but I don't know what to do. And I see people start to come on stage, and I hear them, and I start to understand that they're creating relationships. This person, okay, mom, I'm going here, I'm doing this, or okay, so I'm starting to understand like this person is related to this person, this is how they know each other. But in my mind at the time, you had to physically look like somebody else in order to be related to them.
Mm.
So there was like my suspension of disbelief was there, but I still was a little skeptical, because I was like, I don't really think they're related, because that person doesn't look like that other person.
Thing.
And I remember people were coming and going, and I'm going to the store, I'll be right back or whatever. And they go through the door. And I'm thinking to myself, I know there's no store on the other side of that. Like, I know they're not really going where they say they're going, but I was curious about what's happening back there. Like,
Yes.
what's all of this? And I didn't know at the time that I didn't know somebody wrote the play. I didn't know somebody had stage managed and directed it. I didn't know there were lighting designers. I didn't know anything. All I knew was the people that were on stage had engaged me and they made me feel something. So in my mind, that's what it was. And I was like, I want to be one of those people.
Ooh.
And that was my first interest in acting. I didn't know that there were other things you could explore
Mm-hmm.
in the world of theater and you know, zooming out to, you know, film and television and all the, you know, all the roles we know that go into creating a piece of, you know, work. I didn't know, I just knew it was acting. So that's when I knew I wanted to pursue acting. And as a kid, I was just always the ones like creating things, making people do skits, making my siblings like, you know, do skits at holidays and stuff like that. But I didn't formalize my training until undergrad. Like it was like sophomore year. I was on like a completely different track,
I
engineering.
take it you went to Morehouse. It's
I went
just
to Morehouse.
just to guess that you
I went to Morehouse undergrad.
And did you choose, I mean, obviously you choose an HBCU on purpose, but I wonder about in terms of you being an actor, did you know that that was part of what you wanted to do, or did you just go into undergrad like you had done kind of more informal stuff growing, you know, before then in high school?
Super informal. Like all of my actor training like was just me doing plays and stuff at church, like me writing skits and making at church.
Yes.
In high school, like maybe my junior or senior year of high school, I got involved with an organization out of Philly that was a pretty much a peer mentorship program that focused on HIV and AIDS and STD prevention and awareness, domestic violence, and tobacco free. There was like a really big tobacco free kick in Philly at the time. And so this organization was like, they trained us in all of this like STI and you know, health and sexual education material. And then there was a play that was like a component that was supposed to integrate all of the things that we talked about. So, you know, they would take us out of school early on some days and we would go to other high schools in the city and perform this play and then have these facilitated discussions with our peers about what they experienced and what they saw.
I need to say, as you keep going, that I feel like you've planted a seed right now, because I think a lot of us who grew up kind of informally in theater, because we didn't have access to, you know, other friends of mine already had classes and, you know, et cetera, but we did community theater and or kind of education-based theater, and you ended up doing theater which has such an impact, like your storytelling has an impact. And I just want to notate right now that I think when you have that early exposure to storytelling with an impact, that you kind of can't let that go as for better and worse, because we ain't gonna make a lot of money being impact storytelling, maybe. But
I'm so glad that you're talking about that though, because I think there is you know, there's that truly like altruistic sense of like wanting to contribute and make an impact, you know. But as artists, I think it's so important, that conversation around finances and sustaining a living, you know.
Let's get into that.
You have to strike a balance, and it becomes increasingly more difficult the further along you go, because I find that, like, for better or worse, a lot of drama programs, theater programs, even like, you know, talk about some writing programs and film schools, they don't necessarily talk about that portion of it, you know what I mean? And artists are a lot of times trained, I think, is a little bit of the hidden curriculum, you know. It may not be overtly stated, but just being grateful for the opportunity, or grateful to be in the room. And I think generosity and gratitude is a huge part of what sustains an artist and what makes you actually a well-rounded artist. But you have to know what things are necessary for your own personal fulfillment and in the kind of life that you want to live. And not everybody wants to do that starving artist thing. Like, I just think that's unfair. I think it's unfair to paint
that they necessarily have to go together.
Because it's a merit-based. There's a lot of nepotism in any kind of industry. A lot also in our industry, but a lot of the times, especially in time past, it was a sort of a merit-based thing. You know, you cut your teeth, you pay your dues, and if you work long and hard enough, your chance will come, right? Because that's how everybody else did it. And there's some validity to that. But, you know, I think also with how everything else has evolved and changed in our life, as, you know, in our world, as, you know, time has gone on, there are newer ways to approach the idea of what it means to be an artist and how you can make yourself a viable and impactful artist.
I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, well, yes. We will explore that further, especially as you start thinking and talking about your writing in this transition, because I think those two career, obviously theater versus screenwriter, even that alone, the salary is different if you get work in either one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go to Morehouse, and you said, was it your junior year at Morehouse that you were like, actually,
Sophomore year,
okay,
like the latter half of my sophomore year, I had gone over to see, like, watch some shows in the theater department the first semester, but I was like too shy. I wasn't confident because I was like, oh, just to your point, a lot of people that you knew as you were growing up had been training since they were kids. Like, I had no formal training. So here I am thinking these kids have been doing this since forever. They know way more than I do, but I took a chance and I signed up for an intro acting class, and the instructor, she has some very encouraging things to say to me at one of those like first projects that we did, one of those first monologues that I like learned. I remember it was Baldwin's The Amen Corner. And I
you killed it. You being shy, you killed it.
and she had some really, really encouraging things to say. And that started me on the path of like, okay, there's something here, there's something more. And it wasn't until my senior year where we had like a short play festival and everybody's required, it's a very liberal arts approach to sort of to theater. So you do some technical directing classes and you learn a little bit about lights and set, and you learn a little bit about this, but they made everyone take a directing course.
Good.
In that position that I was like, oh, okay, there's actually real power here, right? There's real power here to impact what kinds of stories are being told and how they're presented to the world. And then it wasn't until later on, grad school and post, that I realized, oh, as a writer, you have the real power because you're birthing the stories into the world, right? So it's a constant, like, back to those early seeds that you said about wanting to create an impact. I knew what theater had done for me as a kid, just experiencing the excitement in that sort of energy exchange in a live performance setting. But it was later on where I started to realize, like, oh, I want to make an impact, and I can create something that resonates with people and helps people not only feel good, but makes them think and sets them on a path toward a better life, whatever that may be for them.
So all, I gotta say, I did not pay Keith to talk about the fact that he learned about directing and writing as well, and that made him a better actor. I didn't pay him to say that, but I make this point all the time, how important it is to have these varied skills. And no, you're not going to be an expert in all of them, and you shouldn't be, because other folks really spend all their time on those, but to understand, like, each aspect of the storytelling process makes you stronger at another aspect of it. Like, the more you understand and have that perspective, right?
I see it as like languages, right? Like, okay, I am a native English speaker, so I have the most command over that language, but I can become fluent in another language, or I can at least arm myself with enough of that language or understanding of it so that if I travel, I can communicate, right? And I see acting or any sort of discipline in this, craft of, what we do is the same way as languages. And the more languages you arm yourself with, the more collaborative you can be, the more, deep you can deepen your connection to material and to your collaborators. And that's how you really create magic,
I love it.